Hopeville, Ashton, two pre-war towns established on a fault line between Death Valley and the Mojave Desert. In this desolate badland, they constructed a slice of Americana. White picket fences frame the dwellings of this vibrant town, setting the example of what's possible when the best technology America has to offer is utilized, taming the desert into a veritable Eden. It was true paradise, or so the residents were made to believe. Alongside this community, the US Army built an arsenal of intercontinental ballistic missiles right under their feet. Due to the poor location for construction, i.e., along the narrows of a fault line, the underground silos would encounter a plethora of construction issues. As the constant earthquakes rocked the towns, the military attempted to quell concerns by assuring the civilian population that their engineers had the situation under control. They didn't. If the poor location wasn't enough, Hopeville and Ashton had also been the unwitting test subject for a secret weather control experiment from the scientists at the nearby Big Mountain Research Facility. This experiment riddled the area with intense and frequent windstorms, which weren't all too dangerous initially, but would grow to be highly dangerous in the centuries to follow. In 2077, the world as we knew it was reduced to rubble, and the townspeople of Hopeville and Ashton fled for their lives. The silos remained dormant, having sustained heavy damage from the fault line increasing as a result of the ensuing nuclear detonations. For 200 years they lie dormant, standing a silent vigil, a nuclear colossus, waiting for a signal to unleash hell on Earth. In the aftermath of the Great War, people slowly returned to the area and over many years managed to rebuild a semblance of civilization. These new residents lived in peace and prosperity, growing wealthy through trade with the new California Republic as they rapidly grew around the divide. In the years that followed, this community would become an important logistical hub and supply depot for the NCR and their war with Caesar's Legion, a Roman legion-inspired slave army pressing into the Mojave from east of the Colorado River. It didn't take long for Caesar's scouts to notice this vital supply line. Following the first battle and their subsequent defeat at Hoover Dam, Legion forces would adapt their strategy to better combat the massive army of the NCR. In one of many operations, an assault force consisting of Legion special forces were dispatched to the divide with only a single objective in mind: sever the supply line from California to the Mojave at all cost. As luck would have it, another force was in motion that would accomplish this exact feat, albeit unwittingly. A lone courier carrying a package from the west. In this package was a strange device, a kind of detonator which, when linked to the central systems in the divide, would allow for the launch of the ICBM stored there. The NCR had recovered this enigmatic relic of pre-war technology from a former Enclave base on the shores of California, Navarro. Recognizing unique symbols on the device from those found in the divide, the NCR saw fit to send this tech over to their garrison for further study. Unbeknownst to them, their efforts would prove a detriment to this end. Upon arriving, the device began speaking to the systems of the divide, sending launch codes and overriding its security. In a blink, the silos beneath the divide had awoken with the sound of their demise. The warheads sleeping beneath their feet had begun detonating, cracking the ground in half and turning this once prosperous oasis into a broken, windswept, radiation-laden hellscape. The explosions kicked rocks and radiation into the raging windstorms, transforming them from a mundane nuisance to a hyper-lethal weather event. The sandstorm flayed the survivors alive. It not only stripped their skin from their bodies, but also stripped their flags from their hearts. Those who weren't lucky enough to die were ghoulified in the now radioactive sandstorm, condemned to an eternal cycle of having their skin scraped off, only to be healed by the radiation and the same wind that is consuming them. The survivors would never truly heal from their wounds, forced to endure this hellish cycle indefinitely. Through the anguish brought upon these survivors, they would lose their humanity almost entirely, evolving into something grotesque: the Marked Men. Following the destruction of the Divide, the Marktmen, who were once soldiers of the new California Republic and Caesar's Legion, would band together, forming a new tribe and utilizing their shared hatred as an anchor in this new hell on Earth. While not feral, the pain they endure overcomes their sensibilities almost entirely. The Marktmen are still ferocious warriors and are extremely aggressive to anyone and anything not of their flock. They provide no quarter and ask for none in return. In addition to this, they bring with them a wealth of knowledge and skills from their respective time in the armies. Their armor still bearing these old allegiances, but different now, evolved, reinforced with scavenged metals of the Divide, showcasing the depths to which they have been transformed. Just like the generations of settlers before them, the Marktmen had dug in, building an entire community out of the ruins of the landscape. With near unlimited material to salvage, they would begin the construction of camps, bringing beds, food, and supplies to these locations. Soon after, the presence of makeshift huts would arise, all centered around a campfire for cooking and for warmth. While Marktmen made for a dominating force in these ruins, they made up only a fraction of the horrors that plagued the wasteland, and even worse, they weren't top of the food chain. Above ground, they had to contend with the ferocious deathclaws that roamed the Divide, and below, something far worse. In time, they learned to avoid conflict with these creatures whenever possible, and with the plethora of advanced pre-war weaponry housed here, even managed to push back against them with relative success in some areas, becoming the dominant force above ground in the Divide. While the identities of the Marktmen had been stripped away, a few clung on to the past in a more material manner, helping to anchor them in the chaos.
They bear false versions of Legate Benius' mask, the one Caesar fashioned for him. Thought it was an insult at first. No better now. It's shaped from Divide metal, not with care and strength, but with hate. Keeps them anchored. Crude, effective, like the blades they carry, distant mirrors of their legate, a symbol they can hold on to, while the Divide tears at them.
A few of these Marktmen have constructed visages of Legatus Lanius, either as an attempt to hold on to their pasts, or to harness the strength of his symbol. It's unclear as to whether these Marktmen are leaders or champions amongst their peers, but it would be easy to assume something of the sort due to their unique names and custom armors. At the end of the lonesome road, as Ulysses and Courier 6 gather under the flag of the old world, intent on burying the hatchet, either in the ground or in each other, the Marktmen lie in wait, ready to capitalize on the opportunity by assaulting the facility en masse. The reason for this is never clarified, and it's never revealed as to why the Marktmen saw this as such an important target. Many have speculated that the Marktmen are more cognizant of the ramifications of this meeting, intent on stopping the launch of ICBMs at all cost, while others simply chalk it up to mindless savages doing barbaric things. In the end, even the mighty forces of the Marktmen crumble to the couriers, with the reasoning for this attack never leaving their lips. As Courier 6 walked the path back to the Mojave, the surviving Marktmen stood aside to allow them passage, the once hostile survivors now showcasing their recognition, be it in fear or respect, to an individual who has earned their place in this world. The wind of the Divide carried their screams. Their countries banished them from memory. In their misery, they hardened their hearts, transforming into something more than mere men, their hatred keeping them alive as the world dies around them. The Marktmen of the Divide are but one of the great tragedies to befall the world in the wake of man's hubris, a mere echo of a memory, left to wander this hellscape forever.